Ryzen 3000 and the RX 5700s make this July a special month for AMD. So last week, I said I was pessimistic about the foreseeable desktop GPU market as prices were set for the 5700 at $379 and the 5700 XT for $449 in the face of NVIDIA having just dropped their RTX refresh lineup. This batch of Navi cards was doomed to be DOA. Then following Independence Day, after the smoke had cleared,
And the
a
first
news bomb.
earthquake had already passed.
Yes, a news bomb started to circulate, which took until the weekend to become reality, fully reality. The 5700 was getting an MSRP price cut of $30 and the XT a cut of 50, about 9 to 12% on both fronts. 9 or 10% cuts out the door compared to what AMD had announced at the next Horizon show at E3 back in June. So they did a price cut. They did a flim-flam. They did a switcheroo.
They faked NVIDIA out, is what they did.
Faked them out, broke their ankles, Allen Iverson style. Yes.
Oh, yeah, they set them up to fail. We're like, we're releasing our cards for the exact same price as your cards. And then when they announced the supers, which were going to be the same price as their cards, they cut the price. They're like, gotcha.
Okay, so as overpriced and messed up as the current generation GPU market is, as consumers, we got to accept positives as they come. Instead of cutting prices after release, which AMD would have needed to do anyway to compete, they went ahead and did it literally as tech journalists with samples were still testing them. So you had these people doing samples of the stuff like while under embargo, and they didn't even know what the hell the final product's price was going to be. That was going on. So this was the most pleasant surprise to come out of this 7/7 D-Day launch from either front yesterday. And when I say yesterday, I'm talking about like last weekend. Keep in mind most of this coverage that I'm going to be talking about right now, it's from a PC gamer's perspective with my writing, not delving into other professional workloads. Although, spoiler alert, AMD beats Intel harder in multi-threaded applications than typical gaming ones. So far, Ryzen, they've been just trailing Intel at gaming stuff on the CPU side, but pretty much they caught up now.
Yeah, looks pretty solid to me.
With how AMD's first, second, and now third generation Ryzen processors stack up against Intel, it's a bloody slaughter right now. Intel's 7, 8, and 9000 series quads should be under 100 at this point in a balanced, rational world. 4-core, 4 threads for $150 like the i3 8300 is selling people short in 2019. A modest redeeming quality that Intel remains with is the convenience of their HD graphics built into everything, which does benefit most people because always having something to fall back on to get an image on the screen if your GPU goes out or goes kaput is a lifesaver. It is a lifesaver. Then on the other side of the spectrum, their top K processors clocked at 5 gigahertz plus do make for better gaming chips still, but overclocking is a niche activity with diminishing returns, especially when you factor the aftermarket coolers needed to hold that down at such a high clock rate.
Yeah.
AM4 motherboards have wide compatibility spanning 3 generations, including their APUs like the 2200G and the new 3200G, which don't require a separate video card. Now, all of my review channels, they're not talking about the 3200G. Like, they're just totally overlooking it. But if you were just going to get a processor and you weren't going to add a video card at all to it, and it was just going to be like this is it. This is your
Like a
computer.
workstation or something?
No, not a workstation. I'm talking just like, um, just a kind of like low end
Family room computer?
Yeah, yeah, that would still, be good for gaming. That's what the 2200G and the 3200G are. That line of APUs, um, the graphics in one of those just totally shits all over what Intel HD graphics have. Like, if you were just going to compare an Intel CPU with one of the AMD APUs, there's like no comparison really. So if someone had been biding their time with the 2200G for a while, paired with either a B450 or a flashed B350 motherboard from early 2018 during the GPU apocalypse, a dark time when crypto mining doubled and tripled the prices of cards, they
Yeah,
can
that was
potentially
ridiculous.
they can potentially upgrade to any 6 to 12 core processor under the Ryzen banner, then finally get a worthy discrete video card. With the 1600, with the Ryzen 5 1600s going for 70 to 120 bucks, it looks like a smart, frugal path. So something that somebody can do if they had a 2200G, they had that APU, and 2200G, performance-wise, you're looking at the gaming performance by itself. It's similar to kind of like an Xbox One, maybe an Xbox One S. Okay, so we're talking early this generation hardware before they did like the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro. But everybody knows that the Xbox One isn't as powerful as base PS4. Base Xbox One isn't as powerful as PS4. So when you got a 2200G, when that came out last year, that thing was $100 more or less, and you could just have Xbox One performance baseline right there, nothing else. That was very convenient. Well, if that is enough for you, you can swap that out of your AM4 motherboard, put in like any Ryzen 6 core or 8 core or 12 core, just any other Ryzen processor that's better now, because you got these. There's so many options. There's such a great upgrade path with the AM4 motherboards. So you could get any one of those. I would recommend, yeah, like a 1600, a 2600, or the new 3600. You get any one of those, and then you just put in like whatever the best value GPU is, which I would say right now it would probably be like, well, Zach, you got some input on this. Like, what were you were thinking about getting an RX 590, right?
Yes, actually, I've first I noticed that Amazon sent me something about an RX 590 being on sale for $220. That's $60 off regular-ish price. And just recently I found one for $195 on Newegg. So
So some of these price cuts that you're talking about, like RX 590 for 195, I don't think those prices were like that a week or two ago. So as
probably
these
not.
new AMD cards have come out, they've caused price drops down the line. I haven't really checked or noticed, like the 1660 or the 1660 Ti, if they've gone down in price. But I'll tell you, when the 590 first came
They
out,
actually haven't, because I actually looked at them too. But no,
so
they're still around the same price.
they're staying the same. When the RX 590 came out I think it was announced at
It says it was released
CES.
about 7 months ago. So yeah, probably see it around
Yeah,
CES.
yeah. So RX 590 came out and was announced in January. Same thing with like the Radeon 7, which they just AMD. I don't know if they totally officially announced it, but it sounds like the Radeon 7 has actually been discontinued. That was like their $700 flagship card that, it
They
had
realized just wasn't necessary, I guess.
it pretty much uh the RX 5700 XT. It's only like 5 or 6% slower than the Radeon 7, and it's like $200 cheaper, or more than 200. It's closer to like $300 cheaper. So there's uh there are still some niche use cases for the Radeon 7, because it does have, like, I think it has 16 gigs of VRAM, and it's the best card for mining if you're not considering how much it costs to get. Because usually the cards that miners go for, they go for like the most inexpensive cards that, do that the best. But if you just had one product that was good for, so if you could like somehow, I'm just thinking of like miners, if they could just like hijack a truck that had Radeon 7s, and like so they didn't have to pay for them, it was like those would be the best mining cards. Okay. It
That
might not
went
be so
out there, but
it might not be that cost effective to buy them for mining specifically, but if like people stole those and were using those for mining, it would be the most effective one.
let's move away from AMD now to the Intel leak and what might be coming down the pipeline from Intel to challenge Ryzen 3.
Okay. There's really not too much to say here. This is something when I first saw this, it just kind of seemed like pie in the sky, because Intel is like really stubborn to begin with. But
they also know their ship is sinking.
Well, you'd think that they would know, but like I said, Intel
they've been having a lot of trouble lately. It only makes sense.
Okay,
but
so
sometimes
much,
common sense eludes companies. But
there's this spec sheet for what some of the successors of what they currently have out in the mainstream desktop line of CPUs. There's some specs out there, and pretty much this is trying to hint that the next Intel processors, everything across the board is going to have hyperthreading, similar to AMD, because AMD has SMT, which is essentially the same thing as hyperthreading. So everything is going to have X amount of cores and then twice as many threads. So down at the bottom, you're going to have like the Intel Core i3 10100, which it's going to be 4 core 8 threads. And as you go up the stack, the i5s, they're not going to be just 6 core 6 threads. They're also going to have 12 threads. And you keep going up, and it's pretty much, that's really the main thing. Everything is going to have hyperthreading. That's what they kind of need to do if they really want to complete. If someone just made this up and was just trying to drum up, for Intel to do this, like if people are seeing this and people are blogging about it, tweeting about it, like, oh, wouldn't this be good if Intel did that? Maybe Intel might actually do something like this. But Intel, like I said, man, it's like almost like they have a different language. They don't hear things so
would
well.
Definitely be nice. I believe the cheapest i3 on there is like 130 something too, 140 something.
Yeah. The cheapest i3, it's 129, which I was saying earlier that like nobody should be getting like a 4-core 4-thread CPU in 2019. This would at least be a 4-core 8-thread CPU, and yeah, for 130, sure. And at the very top end here, they're gonna have 10-core 20 threads.
Yeah.
Okay, for 450 and 500. Oh, and actually for 409, that's what this says here.
Yeah, I saw
But
that. It's a weird thing, but
well, the thing. Oh, no, no, no. It makes sense because the $400 one. Uh, here's the thing. I'm talking about every one of these having hyper-threading, which is good. That's very good. But still, you have the K processors that are overclockable.
mm,
So they are segmenting still, according to this, that not everything is overclockable. You're still going to have the Ks that exclusively overclock. So when I say, oh yeah, there's a 10 core 20 thread, its base clock is 2.7, has a boost clock of 5 gigahertz. So when it boosts, it's pretty much just like on one core, I
yeah.
think, the main core. Yeah, that's $409, but you can't overclock it.
We do know
Okay.
that they were able to overclock a processor to 5 gigahertz at on all cores though. That might be possible on
Well, oh yeah, I think just like
one of their
the
chips.
recent refresh that they kind of did for the 9900K, it's called like the KS. That one, that's pretty much the best like product that they have out there aimed for gamers and
Yeah.
people that want to they want to be able to do everything as best as they can. But yeah, there's like a premium price to it. But yeah, so they would still be segmenting stuff with processors that can only be overclocked. And from what I'm seeing from this would all be real nice if they were to do it. They'd be more competitive. They would make more sense, really. Um, but this is all. This is a lot of things would have to
It's all
really
rumor and
go in.
speculation at this
Yeah,
point.
it's all just rumors and speculation at this point.
All right.
And
Well,
there might let me read. Can I? I'm going to read like the last paragraph of the article I wrote about the Ryzen launch. I'm going to read that
okay.
last paragraph. Okay. The 9900K will still be used for test benches benchmarking GPUs, as will the 2080 Ti be used to test CPUs. Intel and Nvidia have the fastest products on the market right now, but they come with hefty price premiums and more technical effort to make them worthwhile. For people looking to build their own gaming PC with off the shelf parts, AMD could be their one stop shop for everything they need this time around. Hardware Unboxed didn't manage to factor in the value of the Ryzen 5 3600 in their benchmarks because they didn't get a review sample while Gamers Nexus did. I was citing a lot of the benchmarks coming from Gamers Nexus and Unboxed. I highly recommend that people visit their channel and see what they have to say. Okay, so of course the cost per frame figure for it wouldn't be lower than the 2600 or the 1600. I'm referring to the 3600. Uh, it would still be the best of all the new ones listed under the price per frame graph near and around the 2600X. So I'm saying of the new AMD CPUs that were just released, the 3600, pretty much that's just the go-to. It's the 1600, the 2600, the 3600. Those are just like the all-rounders, the most affordable, and they will have like good longevity. Although I gotta say they are 6 core still, and the new consoles coming next year they're going to be 8 core. But personally, I believe that they're going to be their clock speeds in the console. They're going to be 8 core, but they're not going to be clocked as high as they are on desktops.
Mm.
So I think you're going to be okay with a 6 core, even with like a 1600. But even if like a 1600 falls out of favor and it's not good enough for gaming in like 3 years or something, you could still upgrade to a 3600 or higher, dude. The AM4, you could upgrade to an 8 core, a 12 core, maybe even a 16 core. That's another thing. AMD is going to launch a 16 core later. I think it's in September, and for $750, it's pretty expensive, but
It's expensive,
yeah,
but it's also overkill, like hardcore
Yeah, like,
overkill.
and the thing is, that's going to be better than like a lot of Threadripper CPUs out there. Okay, Threadripper is like the superior platform to Ryzen. Okay, superior
Mm-hmm.
CPU, more cores, more threads. Actually, like these 8 and 12 core CPUs that are in the 3000 series, they're all, some of those are already better than bottom Threadrippers
Yeah,
right there.
that's pretty crazy. We should move
You
on
Okay,
to.
one, just maybe just a couple more sentences. You can't go wrong with the 6 core 12 thread, with the 6 core 12 thread offerings from AMD Ryzen. Navi hasn't managed to break the internet yet, but after the price cuts, they've managed to keep things afloat following RTX Super happening. Prices for SSD, CPUs, and RAM have never been as good as they are today, which makes the summer a prime time for people to upgrade. And that's it.
They certainly have made a splash, though. I've seen them. I'm seeing them all over YouTube and stuff like that. So
They're getting a lot of mind share.
and they're getting a
Ryzen,
lot of attention.
a lot of, it's like it's like Glenn Close and Fatal Attraction. I will not be ignored.